Empire of Fire Part 3. Chapter 19, The Flame That Judges. Some thrones are made for ruling. Others are made for sacrifice. And the flame does not ask, it decides. The moment the crown touched her brow, Azadeh felt the fire become something more than heat. It was memory. It was will. It was voice. The flame didn't roar. It whispered. But it whispered in thousands of tongues, all speaking from within her blood. Queen Areshkai, who turned her sword against her empire. Queen Vishira, who tried to seal the flame with her own unborn child. Queen Talame, who burned her own name from every record to protect the future. Each one lived inside the fire now. Each one watched Azadeh. And judged her. She staggered to her knees, gasping. The crown seared against her forehead, not pain, but truth pressing against bone. Darius rushed forward, but the fire flared between them. Azadeh. She looked up, and her eyes were glowing like molten gold. The flame has awakened, she whispered. And it wants more than a queen. It wants a reckoning. Word traveled faster than wind in the desert. The lost city had been found. And within it, the true flame queen had risen. Campfires began to gather in the valleys beyond the sunken city. At first a few. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Refugees. Soldiers. Rebels. Priests. All drawn to the prophecy. Many came to kneel. Some came to test her. And a few came to claim her. Darius stood atop a broken watchtower, watching the fires spread across the horizon. They've built a court around your name, he said. But they don't know who you are. Azadeh stepped beside him, wearing robes of black and copper, her mark now visible on both palms. I'm not sure I know who I am anymore. You're not a goddess. No, she said. But I may be their only hope. The crowd gathered in the outer plaza of Merkava. A rebel commander had arrived, General Reman, once a loyalist under her father, now self-proclaimed High Flame Warden of the East. He knelt before her. My queen, he said, I bring you the traitor who gave our plans to the palace. A girl no older than 16 was dragged forward, trembling. Azadeh's stomach turned. She stole food from our armory, Reman said. Tried to escape. We found coded messages in her satchel. Did she confess? She doesn't need to, he said. The fire knows. He stepped back, raising a torch. We await your judgment, Flamebearer. The crowd was silent. Waiting. Worshipping. Azadeh looked at the girl. Her wrists were bruised. Her eyes wild with fear. Azadeh's hand trembled. She felt the flame stir in her chest. And then, it offered her the fire. If she wanted, she could lift her palm. And the girl would burn. She had the power. But not the right. Azadeh dropped her hand. No. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She's a child, Azadeh said, voice rising. Your loyalty means nothing if it demands cruelty. Reman scowled. She betrayed the rebellion. No, Azadeh snapped. She betrayed your idea of it. She turned to the crowd. I will not rule with fear. I will not become the fire they tried to chain me with. And then she said something no queen had said in centuries. The flame is not justice. It is a mirror. And I will not burn what I cannot forgive. They sat beside a half-lit brazier, the girl asleep inside the ruins under Darius's guard. Azadeh stared into the flame, eyes hollow. You showed mercy, he said. I showed doubt. No, Darius said. You showed you're still human. She looked at him, eyes dimming. But what if the fire doesn't want that? What if it doesn't want me to lead with heart, but with heat? Darius touched her hand. Then you change what it means to carry the fire. She let herself lean against him for a moment. Just a moment. But in that moment, she realized something terrible. The prophecy said, one must burn to break the chain. What it never said was whether that person lived afterward. Far from Merkava, in a tent hidden among sandstorms, Tyria knelt before a golden bowl of flame. Behind her, 10 cloaked figures stood in a circle. Each bore the mark of the Ashen Flame Order. She's taken the crown, said one. She denied blood, said another. She claims the prophecy, but not the will. Tyria opened her eyes. She has the flame, she said coldly. But she does not have the empire. A pause. Then. Let her carry the fire. I'll carry the knife. Chapter 20, The Knife Beneath the Flame. Some betrayals aren't meant to kill you. They're meant to break your heart so you'll never rise again. The city had grown louder. Refugees turned followers. Rebels turned zealots. More arrived each day, kissing the sand Azadeh walked upon, bowing low, asking for justice or vengeance or flame. She gave them firelight in their darkness. But what they wanted was more. Azadeh stood atop the cracked western tower, overlooking the encampments, feeling the pressure of expectation tighten like a noose. Her crown sat heavy on her head, not in weight, but in choice. Behind her, Darius approached quietly. 50 more arrived this morning, he said. One claims to be from the mountain clans. Said you once healed his mother in secret when you were still in hiding. She didn't turn. I don't remember. You don't need to. They do. She sighed. They think I'm the answer. But all I've done is become the question. He stepped closer. Then let me be your sword. While you figure out what kind of flame you are. She looked at him. And for a moment, she forgot about prophecy. War. Fire. She remembered only him. In a tent drenched in incense and silence, Tyria stood over a kneeling figure cloaked in gray. The assassin's face was hidden. No name. No past. Just a single order. Tyria held out a dagger, small, curved, black as oil, and humming faintly with dark runes. Kill her, the assassin asked. No, Tyria said. Kill her, and she becomes martyr. Untouchable. Then? Tyria's smile was cold. Offer mercy. Offer love. Offer him. The assassin came as a survivor. Wounded. Bleeding. Wrapped in a stolen rebel banner and barely conscious. Dragged to the gates by a pair of desert traders who claimed to have found him outside the sandstorm's edge. Darius heard the shouts and arrived first, sword drawn. The man collapsed at his feet, muttering, Queen, must warn her, shadows walk in daylight. Darius gestured to the guards. Take him to the temple hall. The assassin awoke in the Hall of Whispering Light, Merkava's old inner temple, now converted into a refuge for the injured. Darius sat alone at his bedside, watching him. You're not a survivor, Darius said flatly. You have no calluses. No sunburn. And your injuries too clean. The assassin smiled beneath his hood. You're sharper than they said. I've killed men for less than lying. But never for love, the assassin replied. Darius tensed. What do you want? The assassin leaned forward. And whispered. To save her. The assassin revealed everything, or what seemed like everything. That Zarvan planned to breach Merkava within a fortnight. That Tyria had already infiltrated the southern rebel camps. That the flame was unstable. That prophecy demanded sacrifice. Your queen, the assassin said, is loved too much by the flame. It won't let her live unless someone replaces her. Darius said nothing. The assassin unrolled a scroll. It bore a binding spell, old, forbidden magic. A ritual that could extract the flame from Azadeh and bind it to another. You take the flame, the assassin said. She lives. She'd never agree to that, Darius growled. She doesn't have to. A pause. Then softly. You love her. So die for her. Take the fire. Spare her soul. That same night, Azadeh stood alone in the old vault. The flame in her palm pulsed again, but not in warning. In longing. It pulled her toward the ancient mirror of the first queens. She looked in, and instead of her reflection, she saw Darius, kneeling. The assassin behind him. Her crown, falling. The flame whispered. Love is a kind of fire. But not all fire warms. Some consumes. Azadeh burst into the hall of whispering light just as the assassin handed Darius the ritual scroll. Darius turned. Azadeh froze. You were going to do it, she whispered. You were going to take the flame from me. I was going to save you. Her voice shook. By stealing what I am? The assassin stepped back. Smiling. This, he said, was always the plan. Then threw the dagger. Straight at Azadeh. But Darius moved first. The blade caught him in the side. He dropped, blood pooling beneath him. Azadeh screamed, and the flame erupted. The mark on both palms flared white-hot. The assassin tried to flee. But the flame didn't let him. She raised her hand, and the air ignited. He vanished in a storm of fire and ash. Darius lay on the stone floor, breathing shallow. Azadeh knelt beside him, her hands trembling over the wound. I thought I could protect you, he whispered. She touched his face. You did. You still are. He winced. Don't give it up. Don't ever give it up. Tears burned down her cheeks. I don't need to be the Flamebearer Queen, she whispered. I just need you to live. He smiled faintly. Then, let the fire burn them all. She kissed his forehead. And as her crown began to glow, she made her choice. Chapter 21, The Queen Who Burned. Some queens are crowned with gold. Others are crowned with grief. But the ones who truly rule are those who rise when everything else turns to ash. The wind outside howled like morning. Within the temple chamber, Darius lay unconscious, wrapped in gauze, blood still seeping beneath the linen at his ribs. His face was pale, his breath shallow, his pulse thin. Azadeh sat beside him, unmoving. Her hands, stained red. Her crown, set aside, forgotten on the stone. But her eyes were lit with fire. She had not spoken since the assassin's death. Not to the priests. Not to the rebel commanders. Not even to the flame. Because grief, unlike rage, didn't roar. It burned quietly, like coals beneath a sleeping empire. The crowd had grown. Thousands stood beyond the walls now, refugees, soldiers, warlords, even former satrap guards who had defected. They brought gifts. Banners. Broken blades. They waited for the Queen of Fire to speak. But Azadeh did not emerge. Instead, a single banner was raised above the tower. The sigil of Sacredun, rimmed in gold. And beneath it, a scroll was nailed to the ancient gate, bearing 10 words in flame-painted ink. The fire does not ask permission. It remembers everything. Azadeh called her inner circle to the ruined war chamber. General Alan Karish, former rebel leader. Lady Rasha, High Flame Scribe. And 3 of her mother's old allies, quiet warriors who had lived in exile for decades, each with their own scars. They stood around the obsidian table, marked with the faded maps of the East. Azadeh entered in silence. She no longer wore robes. She wore black leather, fastened with bronze. Her arms were bare, marked with flame runes. Her eyes, shadowed by firelight, held nothing of mercy. She tried to turn him, Azadeh said. They came for me, and failed. Now I come for them, and I do not fail. General Alan bowed. You have but to command. Then prepare the riders, she said. All of them. Targets? Azadeh turned the map and pointed to 3 flame temples, Taruna, Karkesh, and Xanath. They belong to Zarvan's flame priests. They've been binding blood to prophecy. Feeding lies to the people. Converting them by fire. She looked up. We burn them out. The army began to move, quiet at first, then in thunder. The rebels marched under banners of flame and black silk. Riders mounted. Archers notched. Priests recited forgotten rites. At the head of it all, Azadeh rode a desert mare clad in bronze plates, her crown set into a circlet beneath her veil. She said nothing. But her mark, on both palms, glowed so fiercely that the horse's reins smoked in her grip. No one questioned her any more. She was not their queen. She was their reckoning. The temple city fell in a single night. Its priest commander had prepared walls and archers. Azadeh walked through fire and tore the doors from their hinges. Those who surrendered were spared. Those who fought were given flame. As the banners of the Ashen Order burned from the temple roof, Azadeh raised her voice before the people. The flame was never meant to conquer. It was meant to awaken. If they tell you to kneel for salvation, stand instead. Because the fire remembers every lie they told in my name. The people cheered. Some wept. And others called her goddess. In the high temple of Xanath, Zarvan stood before a mirrored flame bowl. The image of Azadeh blazed across the surface. She's coming, said one of the magi beside him. She's already here, Zarvan murmured. A hooded woman stepped beside him. Tyria. She leads with fire now, she said. You were right. She leads with grief, Zarvan corrected. And grief is the most dangerous crown of all. As the war lines shifted and the empire trembled, Darius opened his eyes. The light above him was dim, golden. His side throbbed, but his heart beat strong. And beside him, seated in silence, was a flame priestess. Not Azadeh. She looked up as he stirred. Rest, she said. She rides at the head of fire now. But she left a piece of herself behind. He tried to speak. Don't, the priestess said. You'll need your strength. Why? Because, she whispered, when she returns, the world may not recognize her anymore. Chapter 22, A Throne in Ashes. To rule through fire is easy. To survive it is the test. If Merkava was the heart of the Forgotten Queens, Karkesh was the lungs of the rebellion, a city built between stone pillars carved into a jagged ravine, where flame temples were hollowed from the rock, and the wind always tasted like dust and incense. Now, the city trembled under Azadeh's banner. Her army had reached its gates at dawn. By nightfall, the flames were already rising. Azadeh's troops struck with silent precision. They knew the terrain. The people. The pulse of the rebellion now belonged to her fire. But Karkesh didn't fall easily. The Temple of Ascension, the city's highest sanctum, was defended by the Crimson Sigil Guard, elite warrior priests sworn to Zarvan's inner circle. Runes burned across their skin. They didn't scream when they died. Azadeh led the charge herself. She moved like prophecy unbound, every strike of her flame-marked hands searing weapons to ash. Her robes caught fire from the wind, and still she walked forward. At the steps of the temple, she raised her voice. You burned women who could not fight. You shackled oracles and silenced children. You poisoned my name in the mouths of the desperate. She opened both palms. The doors exploded inward. The temple interior was not gold, but obsidian and limestone, carved with strange runes she had never seen in any Flamebearer archive. At the center of the hall stood a throne, not like the lion throne of Cyrus, but something older. Primitive. Angular. Etched with burned handprints, like someone had touched it again and again through fire. A priest knelt before it, ragged, chained, half-starved. Azadeh approached cautiously. You're not of the Ashen Order, she said. The man looked up. His eyes were milky white. His voice, dry as the dust, I was the last of the witnesses. The ones who watched the prophecy forged. Darius, recovered and now by her side, tightened his grip on his sword. Azadeh stepped closer. Then tell me what no scroll has. What does it mean, one must burn to break the chain? The old man smiled, cracked and toothless. And then he laughed. They found the door beneath the throne, hidden behind flame script only Azadeh's mark could read. It led downward, spiraling deep into the rock, where no sun had touched for centuries. The air grew colder. The walls turned smooth. And then, they reached the chamber. There was no altar. No shrine. Just a stone pedestal. And on it, encased in crystal, a single scroll wrapped in fireleaf and bound in cursed iron. Azadeh touched it. The seal cracked open. And the scroll unraveled on its own. She read the words aloud. The first queen tried to end the flame by bearing it all herself. But the flame cannot die. It only passes. From one heart to the next. From one wound to another. Only when two burn as one can the chain truly break. She stopped. Stared. Two, she whispered. Darius frowned. To what? She turned to him, heart pounding. The prophecy isn't about sacrifice. It's about union. Two hearts. One fire. One throne. A pause. Then. You were always part of it. They brought the witness out into the city square. The people had gathered, nervous, eager, afraid. Azadeh raised her voice over the clamor. I was told I had to burn. That the fire demanded my soul. She raised the ancient scroll. They lied. The people gasped. Azadeh turned to Darius. He stepped beside her, silent, calm, scarred from the knife meant to take his life. From this day forward, she said, the flame is no longer bound to blood alone. The fire will choose, but it will not consume. She lifted her hand. The flame mark leapt from her palm and etched itself into the air between them. The people watched. And two flames answered. Hers. And Darius's. For the first time in living memory, the fire chose not one, but two. Zarvan threw the crystal mirror against the wall. It shattered into flame shards. She's unlocked it, he hissed. The final seal. Tyria stepped from the shadows, arms crossed. You said she would destroy herself. Zarvan turned to her, furious. She hasn't destroyed anything. She's building something stronger. Tyria's eyes narrowed. Then we take it from her. Break the bond. How? Her smile was cold. Certain. We don't kill her, Zarvan. We kill him. Chapter 23, The Blade Between Them. Prophecies do not fail because they are false. They fail because they were never ready for love. The city of fire now breathed with life. Once silent and buried, Merkava pulsed again, flame-touched and myth-made. The throne chamber was restored. Flame banners snapped from towers. The outer rings teemed with soldiers and priests, emissaries from broken cities, and rebel bands now pledging loyalty to Queen Azadeh. But in the heart of it all, Azadeh herself grew restless. The scroll beneath Karkesh still burned in her mind. Only when two burn as one. The fire does not consume them, it completes them. Yet in the quiet hours, as Darius slept beside her and dreams of war loomed just beyond the walls, the flame whispered something new. But love must end, if the world is to begin. She awoke in sweat, every night. And every night, Darius held her hand. Tyria moved like a whisper through the outer rings of Merkava. Disguised as a desert healer, face painted with ash dust and robes smelling of juniper and mint, she passed unchecked. The guard saw only another worshipper. A loyal devotee. The fire, after all, did not just burn. It drew people in. And none burned brighter than Darius. He had become a symbol now, the flame-bound general. Touched by prophecy. Chosen by the fire not to command, but to stand beside the queen who remade it. And that made him dangerous. Tyria watched him from the shadows of a sandstone pillar as he crossed the lower courtyard, nodding to passing soldiers. She whispered. Not to kill the queen. But to break her. It was a place only a few knew, Azadeh's private sanctuary, where glowing flowers bloomed from glass-stemmed vines, fed by old flame runes in the stone. Darius had come alone, as he did every night. Azadeh was late. Preparing for the royal address tomorrow. He paced beneath the vines, their light bathing him in amber. Then. A sound. Behind him. He turned, half expecting her. And instead, found Tyria. Darius stepped back immediately, drawing his blade. Tyria. She smiled sadly. You say it like we're enemies. We are. I once would have followed you, she said, stepping forward, her fingers wrapped loosely around a curved dagger. You were noble. Controlled. A weapon of the crown. But now, you bleed for her. I choose her, he said. Then you choose death. She lunged. Their blades clashed, steel and obsidian sparking firelight in the garden's soft glow. Darius moved with deadly precision, but Tyria was fast, faster than memory, faster than regret. You're in the way, she hissed, striking low. Darius blocked, barely. You don't understand the prophecy, she shouted. She was meant to rise alone. The flame has always been a solitary fire. She changed it, he growled. She changed everything. Their blades locked. And in the moment between breaths, Tyria twisted. A second knife, hidden in her sleeve. She stabbed him. Straight into his side. She had felt it. The flame in her chest flared, not with power, but panic. She ran barefoot through the corridor, guards trailing, but she ignored them all. The moment she stepped into the garden. She screamed. Darius. He crumpled. Tyria stepped back, dagger dripping red, her expression unreadable. Why? Azadeh whispered. You made him part of the flame, Tyria said. But the fire belongs to no one. Not even you. Azadeh stepped forward. Her hands lifted. The entire garden caught fire. But Tyria was already gone. Vanished into smoke and shadow. They carried him to the sanctum beneath the throne. Priests whispered prayers. Alchemists applied fire dust to the wound, slowing the blood, but they couldn't reach deep enough. The blade had struck near the heart. Azadeh sat beside him. Her hands glowed. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. The fire within her surged, begging to be released. She could heal him. She might heal him. But it would take everything. The prophecy burned behind her eyes. Two must burn as one. And then, a second voice. But one must burn, alone. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm not ready," she whispered. Darius reached for her. "You are," he rasped. "But if you fall, let me be the one who burns." She shook her head. "No. Not this time." And then she kissed him. And opened the flame. The chamber blazed. Light erupted from Azadeh's crown, her palms, her mouth, her eyes. Flame arced into Darius's body. Not just to heal, but to bind. And for one suspended moment, the fire became one soul. Two hearts, beating in sync. Two names, whispered by the flame. Azadeh. Darius. The fire has chosen. The wound closed. But the cost had only just begun. Chapter 24, The Fire That Forgets. What is memory, if not a flame? Bright, flickering, and always on the edge of going out. The palace halls had grown too quiet. No chants. No horns. No prayers from the outer city. Just silence. Azadeh walked through it like a ghost, barefoot, robes rumpled, her once bright crown dimmed to a dull gold. The fire inside her pulsed, but not with pride. Not with rage. With ache. Since the night of the binding flame, she hadn't slept. Hadn't spoken. Hadn't touched the crown. Not since Darius's body had stopped seizing, and stilled. And opened his eyes. Without recognition. He sat now on a low cot in the sanctuary chamber, a deep scar just beneath his ribs where the knife had pierced him. His body was healed. His strength had returned. But when Azadeh entered that morning, carrying a bowl of dates and honeyed bread, he looked up and said, "Thank you, priestess." Her heart cracked again. Not visibly. But deep, and final. She set the bowl down. "Do you remember me?" He looked at her, thoughtful. Polite. The way he might look at a stranger in a royal court. "I've seen your face," he said. "In dreams, maybe. But I don't know your name." Azadeh nodded. Left the food. And walked out. Her vision blurred from tears she refused to let fall. The rebel leaders gathered without her request. Word of Darius's wound, and survival, had spread. So had the whispers. That the flame had turned on them. That the bond was broken. That the queen's heart had cost her the crown. Lady Rasha whispered cautiously, "The people believe the prophecy is unraveling." Azadeh stood at the window of the war chamber. "The people always believe," she said quietly. "It's what they believe in next that matters." General Alan hesitated. "Some want to follow Darius." She turned then. Fully. Her voice was ice. "He doesn't even remember who I am." "And they want to crown him?" Alan bowed his head. "It's not loyalty. It's fear. They think he's been purified. That the fire made him perfect." Azadeh stepped away from the window. "No," she said. "The fire didn't make him perfect." She placed her hand over her own heart. "It took him from me." She returned to the garden where the attack had happened. Everything had regrown. But she hadn't. She knelt beneath the vine-covered arch where they once kissed. And whispered, "I gave you my fire. So you could live. But I wasn't ready for you to live without me." The flame stirred in her palms. No longer hungry. Just hollow. Tyria stood before Zarvan, arms crossed. He lives, she said. But he doesn't remember. Zarvan smiled thinly. Perfect. You said breaking their bond would break the prophecy. It did, Zarvan said. For now. But if he remembers. Zarvan's smile faded. Then everything burns. That night, Darius stood alone on the balcony of the sanctuary. He looked at the stars. At the banners in the distance. At the silent city that chanted Azadeh's name in prayer and fire. He placed a hand to his chest, where the scar burned faintly. And whispered to the night. Who are you? And why, do I miss you like I've lost a war? Behind him, the wind stirred. And in the tower, Azadeh sat alone on her throne. Flame in her hands. No longer a queen in love. Just a queen made of ash and memory. Chapter 25, When Fire Remembers. Flame forgets. But love remembers what prophecy dares not. The sun rose blood-orange over the ash-soaked horizon. Across the open plains, two armies faced each other. On one side, the fire-born rebellion, led by Queen Azadeh, robed in black gold, flames circling her hands like a storm held barely in check. On the other, the Order of the Ashen Flame, led by Zarvan and his high priestess Tyria, crowned in red glass and standing at the head of an army of flame-chanting zealots. Between them, the broken land of Xanath, scorched by centuries of lies. Darius stood with Azadeh's soldiers, his armor spotless, his sword unsheathed. His eyes, uncertain. He had not left the palace since his healing. And though the fire that had bound them no longer sang in his soul, something inside him still pulled toward her. And he didn't know why. She stood before a cracked mirror, adjusting the Flamebearer crown. Not out of vanity. Out of duty. Her eyes, hollow with pain, flared briefly as she called the flame, not as power, but as memory. Visions filled the mirror. Darius laughing. Darius bleeding. Darius saying her name like it meant salvation. She looked away. Lady Rasha entered. He's armored. At your side. But, he still doesn't know. Azadeh nodded. He doesn't have to. Rasha hesitated. And if he remembers mid-battle? Azadeh closed her eyes. Then we both burn. Zarvan struck first, hurling fire-sickened beasts from the eastern hills. Chained constructs of bone and ember, driven by the madness of flame rituals long banned by the Empire. Azadeh's army charged to meet them. Arrows filled the sky. Screams tore across the field. And still, Azadeh did not raise her full fire. Not yet. She moved through the fray like a wraith, seeking only two enemies. Zarvan. And Tyria. They met amid flame and blood. Tyria descended from the ridge with a curved dagger glowing red-hot. Darius turned just in time. She grinned. Still don't remember me? No, he said. But my sword remembers your tricks. They clashed, blade against blade, sparks raining around them. Tyria taunted him with truths he no longer understood. You were hers. Her shield. Her flame. Her heart. He parried, breathing hard. What was I to you? Her answer was a scream of rage, and a blow that cut across his shoulder. And suddenly, he saw her. Not Tyria. Azadeh. Not in the present. In the garden. In fire. In pain. In love. He staggered back, heart racing. And the fire inside him ignited. She found him at the temple ruin's edge, where the last flame tower had once stood. Now, it was only cracked obsidian and bones. Zarvan faced her with calm. You look tired, Azadeh. I carry empires in my blood, she said. Tired is the price. He raised his hand. The fire was never yours. It was ours. No, she said. It was hers. Ereshki's. And every queen after. And now, he asked. She stepped forward. Now it's mine. They clashed, not with swords, but pure fire. Azadeh's flame was golden and wild. Zarvan's was cold and structured, bound by dark sigils. Their powers collided in blinding fury. Stone melted. The wind howled. And in the final moment, Azadeh unleashed all the grief, love, rage, and memory the flame had ever burned within her. The fire judged. And Zarvan burned. As the battle faded, Tyria wounded and fleeing, Darius dropped to his knees. Visions rushed in. Every memory. Every kiss. Every word. Azadeh in the snow. Azadeh in the fire. Azadeh choosing him. He gasped as the fire returned, not just as power, but as remembrance. And he rose. Not as a soldier. Not as a symbol. But as her equal. Azadeh stood in the ruins, the rebellion behind her, her crown in hand. Darius approached, bloody, alive, whole. I remember, he said. She turned, stunned. What do you remember? He placed his forehead against hers. You. Us. The fire that bound us. She wept, silently. He held her hand. You broke the prophecy, he whispered. No, she said. We rewrote it. And as the dawn rose over a kingdom born from ashes, they stood together. Two flames. One fire. And an empire reborn. Epilogue: embers yet to burn. The fire did not end with them. It simply found a quieter way to begin again. The city had changed. Where once it was ruins, now it stood reborn in obsidian and gold, crowned by flame-shaped spires that caught the sunrise like blades held toward heaven. The courtyard sang with laughter, merchants called in 3 languages, and banners of Sakardun fluttered over schools, temples, and towers alike. At the highest terrace, Queen Azadeh stood in silence, watching the desert breathe beneath her. The world had not burned. It had bloomed. Behind her, footsteps, measured, familiar. Darius, now dressed in the silver and copper armor of the flame-bound throne, joined her. One hand rested on the hilt of a sword that had not been drawn in 3 years. The other held a flameglass toy, small and hand-carved. She's asking for you again, he said. Azadeh smiled softly. She always does when she's about to break the rules. The child sat cross-legged on the polished floor of the throne chamber, surrounded by a ring of flickering candles. She was only 4. And yet, the candles danced to her breath. Not smoke. Controlled fire. Azadeh entered slowly. You promised no summoning before breakfast. The girl pouted. I didn't summon anything. They came because I was thinking. Azadeh knelt, brushing a curl from her daughter's brow. That's even more dangerous. Darius leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. Should we be worried? Azadeh looked into her child's eyes, deep amber, burning at the edges. No, she said. But the world should be ready. Far from Merkava, deep beneath the ruins of the Temple of Chains, something stirred. An ember, long buried, sighed. A symbol etched into stone cracked, revealing an ancient crest not seen in over a millennium. Not Sakardun. The serpent flame. A voice, dry and patient, echoed in the dark. The fire was not yours to change. You broke the chain. But not the curse.
Across every empire, every forgotten age, stories still whisper. If this tale stirred your spirit, leave a like to honor the echoes of the past. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice weaves a new legend into the sands of time. And subscribe to our YouTube channel Historical Fantasy Stories, where myths walk beside history, and every discovery changes the world. The next forgotten legend is waiting to be found.